This is Marie from Underground Crafter, and we are now on part 2 of the Layers of Texture Infinity Scarf Cowl. And if you have already seen the part 1 video, I'll have it linked up. There was actually a change to the pattern, a correction listed after the video was posted, so I'll also put the link to the pattern so you can find everything there that you need to make this infinity scarf. So to catch you up on where I am, this is my color A, the blue, and my color B is the brown. And I have done my rows 1A and 1B and 2A and 2B until the desired size. Now probably your piece is probably bigger than mine. It might be 8.5 inches from the start, which is what I suggested, or even longer if you want to make a longer infinity scarf. And I have my stitch marker on my color B because I'm going to be working first with my color A. And what we're going to start with is something called the divider rows. Now these rows aren't interlocked. They're just different rows to separate different kinds of stitch patterns when you're doing interlocking crochet. So they're actually just a division. But we're going to start by first dropping our color B to the back of our project. And with our color A, we're going to chain 4. And again, like everywhere else in this pattern, that's going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1 space. And then we're going to double crochet in the front. Now this particular, so we talked about this in the last video, you're always going to be working color A into color A and color B into color B. We're always going to be making our stitches into double crochets. We're always going to be skipping chain 1 spaces. So this is our next color A or blue double crochet. So we're going to do our double crochet in the front in that one, making sure that we pull the stitch towards the front of the chain 1 space in the color B. Okay, and for this particular divider row, we're just going to chain 1 and skip 1 and double crochet in the front all the way across. So we're just pulling our our A color towards the front, chaining 1, skipping 1 chain space, and double crocheting in the next double crochet, but towards the front. And what you're going to get is a row that looks a lot like that very first foundation row that we did, because basically all of the double crochets are going to be towards the front. They're not going to be interconnected with any of, so when it's in the back like this, you can stick your hook back there and pull the whole thing to the front if you don't want to use your fingers. Either way is fine. But what we're going to end up with is a whole set of color A's that are not interlocked with our color B's. Okay. And we're going to finish off with our, skip 1, our double crochet in the front in the last stitch. So now we're going to drop our color B, our color A, we're not turning yet. So I'm going to switch our stitch marker so I don't lose my loop here. And then I'm going to pick up in my color B. And now with color B, you may have guessed this, we're going to work all of our stitches in the back. And so these 2 rows are not going to be interlocked at all. So we're going to chain 4, again that's going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1 space. And then we're going to double crochet in the back, so we're going to be working into our color B's or our browns in the back. And as we chain 1 and skip 1 and double crochet in the back in every stitch, what you'll see is that it's much easier because we just double crocheted in the front. So this is starting to feel like pretty standard double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and it doesn't even feel like we're doing interlocking crochet for these divider rows. And that's again because they're not interlocked at all. They're just rows that kind of exist on their own. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to drop our color B, we'll turn first. And we're going to drop our color B to the front this time, so not in the back. And then I like to switch the stitch markers. So I'm going to put this stitch marker in the color B because that's the one I'm not using right now. And I'm going to pick up my color A. And then what I'm going to do with my color A, of course, I'm going to start with a chain 4. And I'm going to double crochet in the back, and I'm going to do that all the way around. So again, this is going to be pretty straightforward because as you can see, the color A is already in the back. So I'm going to be chaining 1, skipping 1, and double crocheting in the back all the way across. And so the stitches are really going to be totally separate for these divider rows. This is kind of fun because you can make these divider rows as big as you want. For the pattern that I've written, I just have this one set of repeats where it's just doing it 3 and 4, and that's it. And that really just creates just about what would look like 2 rows, but of course, since it's really 2 on the front and 2 on the back. But in the pattern, it's essentially 4 rows because it's 3A, 3B, and 4A and 4B. So that's the end of 4A. And so we're going to drop our color A, and we won't turn because we haven't done our 4B. And I'm going to switch the stitch marker again. And now I'm going to pick up my color B, which is the brown. And the yarn is in the front. Oops, got a mess of yarn going on over here. And then we're going to chain 4 again, which will count as a double crochet and a chain 1 space. And now we're going to double crochet in the front in the next stitch, and that's easy because it's laying right here in front for us. And then we're going to chain 1 and skip 1 and double crochet in the front all the way across. And again, that's really just going to be pretty simple right now. And the divider rows, I think, in some ways, they give us a little bit of a respite, a little break from maybe the stress of following the pattern on the other side. So sometimes that can be a little bit of a challenge. And so here we are at the end of the row. And I'm going to just show you for a second how these look, these divider rows. And again, you can see they really are not interlocked at all. They're really 2 separate pieces. And that may seem concerning, but actually when we continue on, it won't be a problem because the way that we're going to finish off the project. So don't worry about them not being interlocked. So once you've finished 4A and 4B, which are the divider rows, we're going to start with the stitch pattern for today, which is called the horizontal and vertical stitch, and this is row 5A in the pattern is where it starts. So we're going to turn as always, and again, once you turn, you should always have the working yarn, meaning the yarn that's coming from the ball should be on your right side if you're a right-hander, on your left side if you're a left-hander. We're going to switch our stitch markers again because we always are starting with our color A first once we turn. So I'm going to just put it on my color B. And for this particular stitch, we're going to leave the color B in the back of the project, so we don't need to pull it forward. And with our color A, which again for me is the brown, we're going to chain 4, and this is row 5A in the pattern, 3, 4. Again, that's a double crochet and a chain 1. And then we're going to double crochet in the back of the next stitch. So since we've split things up with the divider rows a little bit, it might get a little confusing as to what's the next stitch. So we want to remember that your color A is always starting with an extra stitch. So it should always be, if you're right-handed, at the right of your first color B, and if you're left-handed, it would be at the left of your first color B. So once you do that, you line it up. Then we'll be able to figure out that if we're going to double crochet in the back for this next stitch, that it should be this stitch and it should go in the back through this space. So we will double crochet there. And then the pattern repeat is pretty simple for this row. We're going to chain 1 and skip 1 and double crochet in the back all the way across. And once we've lined up that first stitch, it'll be pretty easy to figure out which chain 1 space goes with which double crochet. Now, the way I've been showing you, I've been pushing it through with my finger like this, and then making the double crochet back here. If you don't like pushing it through with your finger, another alternative is to use your hook and just reach in and pull back. So that's another way to do it. It's all about your preference. There's not one that's better than the other, but you may find that one is easier or faster for you to do. And, you know, obviously I'm assuming you're going to pick the one that you like better. And so we're going to keep double crocheting in the back all the way across with our color A. Okay, so now we're going to drop the color A. I like to switch my stitch markers. You guys probably have noticed. We don't turn because we've only done the first part of the row. And we're going to pick up our color B, which again for me is the brown. And for the color B, we're going to chain 4. Again, that's going to count as the double crochet in the chain 1 space. And then we're also going to double crochet in the back of the next stitch. So I'm going to pull our color B to the back. And again, you can either push with your finger or you can use your hook to kind of grab it. Either way is fine. It really is your personal preference. And we're going to do that all the way across. Oops. And ending in the back here. Okay, so that's row 5A and 5B. And then we're going to turn again and we're going to switch our color B to the back. So just drop the yarn to the back. Bring our color A yarn to the front and switch our stitch marker again. So for row 6A, we're going to start by chaining 4 with color A, which again for me is the blue. And then we're going to double crochet in the front of the next stitch. So we'll pull the next stitch towards the front, and we're going to repeat that all the way across the row. So it'll be chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the front. And so we'll be interlocking our stitches, but it's not as complicated as that first set of patterns. So maybe this will feel like a little bit of a relief because the rows are more straightforward, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the front. We're going to repeat that all the way across. And then we're going to drop our color A and switch back to our color B. And again, I always like to switch the stitch markers. And for row 6B, we're going to chain 4 as always, and we're going to double crochet in the front, and then we're going to repeat that all the way across, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the front. So this pattern is interesting in that each row, part A and part B, they're basically the same. Obviously they're using different yarns, but for the row 5A, we double crocheted in the back of everything, and for the row 5B, we double crocheted in the back, and now for row 6A and 6B, everything is in the front. So essentially, we're kind of repeating the same 2 sets of stitches. Oops, almost picked up my color A there by accident. Okay, so basically, what you're going to see is on one side it's going to look like this, which is, you know, kind of vertical stripes, and on the other side it's going to look like horizontal stripes, even though we're doing the same stitch, which is kind of interesting. So you're going to keep up this section until it's about 8.5 inches long, repeating that 5A, 5B, 6A, and 6B, or you're going to keep going until it's the length that you want, and about 1/6 of the total scarf. And then when you're finished with that, you're going to repeat those divider rows 3 and 4 one more time. And then I'll be back with part 3. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you will subscribe to my channel to get my next video.